So by the time this episode releases, we're what, like 7 weeks into Trump 2?
Yeah, it's upsetting.
It feels like we're about 7 years into Trump 2. So much has been happening, and really conservatives just continue to hit new lows damn near every week. And this week, I kind of wanted to open the show by talking about a new low for even Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Because, we've covered what that guy said before many times throughout the history of the show. I'm sure you're aware of ridiculous statements he's made, like something about Palestine should be just ran over by bulldozers and whatnot a while ago on his old blog and whatnot.
If sea levels rise, just sell your house and move.
Yeah, that was
That's
another
a classic
banger.
Ben Shapiro banger. Yeah,
but now it's like he's really just trying hard to stay relevant by being evil.
Yeah.
Typical conservative. And I've got a clip that just absolutely fucking dropped my jaw when I saw this thing this week, and I want to play it for you all.
There is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin.
No
President
way.
Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. He should. He should pardon him his federal charges.
Oh.
If we are talking about reversing the evils of the last several years,
insane.
Obviously, COVID and its handling was a massive evil. Destroyed the economy, set us on a path to fiscal insanity, destroyed children, led to massive health-related cover-ups. Just horrifying all the way around. And President Trump has taken on a lot of those things.
Get to the point.
But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States
It also,
and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime,
Okay.
was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not in fact commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on...
Yep.
He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. George Floyd was saying he could not breathe before he was even out of the car. He was in the car saying he could not breathe. Derek Chauvin, for large segments of even the tape that was shown, had his knee on George Floyd's shoulder or back, not on his neck. The autopsy of George Floyd showed that he had no damage to his trachea, that probably George Floyd died of excited delirium.
Jesus
There were no
Christ.
Probably is doing a lot of work there
That's
in that statement.
That's a I know I'm lying pause right there.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
And that's why I say probably is doing a lot of work for that statement because, surprise, he's just lying.
Yeah.
One, Derek Chauvin was not railroaded. I'm pretty sure he pleaded guilty to at least some of the charges that he was convicted of because he pleaded guilty. He goes on to say there was a sham trial, there wasn't even a trial, blah, blah. He pleaded guilty.
Yeah.
There's no reason to litigate this. Got a plea deal.
Dog, Ben Shapiro and conservatives are desperate for you to think about anything other than the price of eggs.
Oh my God, I know.
They will introduce anything to the culture war, even reintroduce things to the culture war, if they can distract you from the dismantling of the government, the siphoning of wealth to the wealthy, and the extreme cost of living.
Like, people have not been talking about, like, BLM and the issue of police brutality for, like, 2 years, at least.
Even longer than that. Once Biden got elected, everyone shut up.
Pretty much, the first year of Biden, we were having conversations about that stuff, and then most people just forgot about it and decided to, like, drop the issue, and now the Democrats love cops again. Interesting turn of events there for them. But Ben Shapiro is just plainly lying here. Yeah. And a lot of the work that is being done by, like, what he's saying involves this autopsy report that conservatives claim came out last year that says that George Floyd had fentanyl and meth in his system, and that's actually what killed him. It was an overdose, and it wasn't being choked. He says there's no damage to his trachea. But I would like to point out that the AP released an article talking about this where they actually dive into the autopsy report, all 20 pages, not just the second page that conservatives like to circle around there and show you stripped from its context to create whatever narrative they're trying to sell, where they say that what conservatives are saying ignores the prior page, concludes that it was a homicide due to, quote, cardiopulmonary arrest from, quote, law enforcement subdual restraint and neck compression.
There you go. Yeah.
Knee was not on his shoulder. It was on his neck, or at the very least, his neck was compressed because of where his knee was located. This is not an issue that needs to be relitigated. This is one of the most horrific and just blatant instances of police brutality that we've kind of seen in the modern era. It got a lot of people to realize what is wrong with the systems because it was so blatant and egregious and disgusting. why are we bringing this back up? Why is there enough room, I guess, that conservatives think there is within the culture to be relitigating George Floyd of all things?
Yeah.
That's what the Trump win has done. It's just like Josh Shriver, Michigan State Representative, getting on a press conference and saying that we need to overturn Obergefell because the existence of gay marriage denigrates the American family and contributes to Christian persecution. Trump won, and they feel like they are emboldened to say the most racist, most homophobic, and most bigoted things that they've always wanted to say.
Yeah, I think there's different things going on with those two, though.
I agree, yeah.
For Josh Shriver, I think he's just overplaying his hand.
Yeah.
I think, like you say, he's emboldened, and he feels like he can get away with doing basically anything, and he's a bigot. With Ben, though, Ben Shapiro's not a stupid guy. He is formally educated. He knows how to debate. He knows how to craft an argument and a message. I think he is desperately trying to come up with content to distract people from the very real harm that Trump is causing. Yeah. And this is an attention-grabbing thing that is complete nonsense, and I think he knows it's nonsense.
Yeah, I think
he is bigoted, though.
I think underlying both of them is the way that they've been emboldened by the Trump administration and the Trump's win and the idea that Trump has a mandate. But I agree that they're different in that Josh Shriver is ambitious in what he's doing, and Ben Shapiro just reeks of desperation. And bringing a fucking Darren Chauvin? Like, this is clearly something that he's designed because he knows it's going to get clicks. And I mean, I guess I'm contributing to that, but like, come on. You say something so egregious, it's got to get called out. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it is totally insane. But I think, Ben is just trying to invent issues, I think. I think he's running out of things to talk about right now.
And didn't Charlie Kirk come out and like tweet something about how we need to stop talking about egg prices?
Yes.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Man, they are trying everything they can because they know that people are kind of, being swayed by the idea that Trump didn't bring down egg prices because that's the reason why he was elected.
Even Trump is like, I'm hearing all this about eggs. It's Biden's fault.
Yep.
Like, and he's still in the area where he has some plausible deniability, where he can blame the previous guy for a lot of his current misfortunes.
Yep.
But he's running out of road.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially nowadays because people have such a short memory and such a short attention span. I mean, I haven't really thought about Biden since he dropped out.
That's true. He hasn't. Biden was not the president between November and fucking January.
The deep state
realistically, he wasn't. As soon as Trump won, Biden shut up. He didn't say a peep. He came out to, I don't know, pardon like egregious people, some good people, but just do wicked pardons, or pardon his son.
Yeah, that was a good one. Pardoned a few of his friends too. Yeah, that was fun.
Yep.
But yeah, he's sort of running out of road for how long he can blame Biden for a lot of the stuff going on. And consumer sentiment is taking a downturn along with the entire stock market.
Yeah, and the Atlanta Fed's estimation of GDP growth and a looming possible recession and the stock market crash that happened this week. And, there's a lot going on that conservatives are trying to distract you from. And they are willing to... I want to say they're willing to just throw away their integrity to say them, but I don't think they ever had integrity in the first place.
It's like they're digging up culture war issues that they already really won on, right? Yeah. Like Derek Chauvin went to jail. I don't think did Breonna Taylor's the killers go to jail? I don't think they went to jail for killing her.
I think we talked about
they got charged with like wanton endangerment.
Were they not acquitted like a year ago?
I can't remember exactly.
We covered it. I can't remember where we covered it. But either way, justice was not served in the instance of Breonna Taylor, which happened like around the same time. Right. Justice was, I guess, at the bare minimum kind of served in the instance of George Floyd, but like it's...
Yeah. Yeah, like Derek Chauvin is in jail now, and I think a lot of those are state charges, so I don't even know what the appeal here is. But it's just to create outrage. But Derek Chauvin went to jail, but then there really wasn't any wide-scale massive reform to policing.
There wasn't a policy win that Democrats were able to get from it. Instead,
because Democrats weren't trying to get anything.
They ceded the idea that defund the police was a bad slogan because they didn't, stand on business, and they didn't actually try to pass any bills. And in fact, instead of actually, doing police reform or even attempting to defund the police, they just paused or lowered expected raises to police budgets. So overall, police budgets still continued to balloon throughout all of this. There was no policy win. There really was hardly a cultural win other than individual people on the ground kind of opening their eyes and becoming woke, I guess, to some issue. But other than that, conservatives kind of got it. Kyle Rittenhouse got off, things like that. Like
there was there were some local wins, you know what I mean? Like there were some local jurisdictions or cities that reformed some of how they do their policing, but on a national level, there wasn't any wholesale policy change to really point at. I think there was like one bill that passed during Biden's first 2 years when Democrats controlled all of Congress, but it was very minor. I think
they got chokeholds banned. Yeah, I think they banned chokeholds,
which is like good, but obviously not anywhere nearly enough. I mean, we cover cases of police brutality like pretty frequently. and it's just nothing really happened.
Yeah.
In terms of the culturally, conservatives are doing fine on that issue. They didn't really lose the battle at all. So to dig this up again, it just tells me he wants something to talk about.
Crazy.
That's all it is.
Insane reach right there.
Yeah.
My jaw fucking dropped when I saw that this week. Oh my God.
And this guy got invited to the joint session.
Yes.
Ben Shapiro was there. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got quite a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about the joint session, or what was basically just a State of the Union. Same thing, really. And the response to it, which you can imagine disappointed us thoroughly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. We also got, beyond the just Democratic response, we have some issues with Democratic leadership to go through.
Okay.
That really came out this week in a big way.
You do not hate the Democrats enough.
You don't. You really don't. And I hope to make you hate them a little bit more after this.
I got some sweet vitriol for you all.
Man, what I would give to get Hakeem Jeffries on the pod and for him to not be able to leave early.
Yeah.
Oh, man, if I could
we got to talk about a Supreme Court ruling that we just got. Poop water.
Yep, poop water.
We got on the menu.
We got poop water before GTA 6, folks.
And then I think we'll end off the show with some news out of Texas. We'll do some state watch there. But before we get into the show, I'll remind you all, if you want early access to all of our content, and most importantly, if you want to support the show,
yes,
go to Patreon, become a patron. You get early access to all of our stuff. Patreon.com/HeadInTheOfficePod. You can also get some merch. You can get 40% off of your Ground News subscription. All of that is in the description of this episode. Follow us on all the social medias, of course. Join our Discord and whatnot. It's all down there. And lastly, you can leave a 5-star review.
You can.
On Apple, or in the case of these today, DM it to us if it's for some reason not showing up or you don't live in the United States. These United States.
But I will say, no Apple reviews this week, gang.
I know.
What the fuck is going on?
It's got me. I'm on the edge.
Frankly, yeah.
I don't know if I can make it into the studio next week.
You could grab my hand and stop me from falling, but if you keep refusing, eventually I'm going to go. Eventually the wind's going to take me.
So you got it. If you don't want me to fall,
if
you don't want me to take this fall, then you need to leave a 5-star review. But we do have a few to read today from DMs. This first one from Mason Bounds. 5 stars. They say, first off, I condemn Hamas and all political violence, no matter the place or country of origin. Being a leftist in the wonderful sunflower state of Kansas has been tough, but these boys have made it definitely easier to stay up to date and in the loop on politics and the state of both the left and the right. You consistently have good opinions that are neither the usual liberal wah 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 nor the tanky accelerationist copium, but consistently correct and realistic takes. You are single-handedly helping the reputation of the Midwest white guys everywhere. I hope that you continue to inform and entertain as we go further into the new Trump administration. Dear God, it's only been a month. P.S. to Mr. Kash Patel. These men have never influenced a single thought I've had. P.P.S. a dozen eggs for $6.50 yesterday, by the way.
Damn. $6.50 for a dozen?
Sucks, man. Yeah.
I bet that's the shitty ones in the fucking yellow box too. I mean, those are the ones that I get because they're only like $5 or $5.50 here. But damn, they used to be $2.89.
$10 eggs at my corner store. $10 eggs in my corner store. Yeah, it's upsetting. Those might have been the jumbos that were $10, but still. It's
honestly, that's got me going wah wah wah.
Thank you for leaving that review.
Shouts out. We got another one from Timber over on Instagram. Hey, so I left a 5-star review on Spotify, but it won't let me write an actual review, so I'll just leave it here for you of what I would have wrote. I also don't have Apple, so can't let me leave a review there. That's why we democratize it. That's why we open it up for everybody.
Android head ass.
5 out of 5. First, I want to say I condemn Hamas and all political violence.
Me too.
Hiddo is the one and only podcast I can actually listen/watch. I can't stand most of them, but I love my 2 favorite white boys from the Midwest. I found y'all on TikTok and actually did realize you guys were a podcast. I just thought you guys only made TikToks. I'm not always the smartest, but I'm glad I found the podcast and the community. I love this community, and I 1000% recommend people join the Discord server, if not for the community, but so you guys can bring my breaking stock market news every time I can push my narrative that Trump is crashing the economy. God bless you. God bless the new California Republic.
Oh, nice.
California Republic in shambles after this week. Did you see the Gavin Newsom interview?
Oh my God. I didn't watch it, but I saw he interviewed Charlie Kirk and they threw trans people under the bus.
I saw 2 clips that just absolutely blew my mind and made me incredibly disappointed and fearful for the Democratic Party's future. And it was the one of him praising Charlie Kirk's media strategy and him saying, yeah, fuck trans kids, I guess.
Yeah.
It's specifically like kids. I think the segment was like hinged on Charlie Kirk saying, oh, if you think that trans women in women's sports is unfair, will you condemn this high schooler?
That's what Trump did.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that shit sucked a lot.
He invited Charlie Kirk as the first fucking guest on his podcast and then said, oh yeah, you're actually doing great. I love you. Yeah, you know what? You're right about this one. The women's sports thing is like the one issue that registers on polling as being like Republican dominated. Every other trans issue people don't give a shit about. And if Gavin Newsom wants to be a 2028 hopeful and can't fucking recognize that that's clearly just a foot in the door for them to do other anti-trans legislation, what are we doing?
And I don't even believe that conservatives have a real advantage when it comes to like the trans sport issue.
Yeah.
I think it's just lack of pushback from any actual brave Democrat.
It's just like immigration.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like immigration.
There's no counter narrative.
Oh my goodness. And it's like, you're really going to let Charlie Kirk dick you on your own show and get you to condemn a high schooler?
You're the governor of the biggest state in the country.
You're the governor of a state that's like the 7th largest economy in the world. Just as the state, not even like a country.
You should be banned from running for president if you have a podcast.
I think so.
I will take that hit.
Think so.
I'll take the hit.
Fucking he also, I saw another clip from his show later on that said, my 13-year-old loves you. He wanted to skip school to come to the recording today. Gavin Newsom, fucking top Democratic governor of Democratic hellhole, California,
dude,
said my 13-year-old son loves Charlie Kirk. What are you doing, dog?
Entirely too chummy, man.
Like,
entirely too chummy. Like,
and he's laughing about it and going to Charlie Kirk and be like, yeah, you guys are like doing great. Like, yeah, you're going around to college campuses. Charlie Kirk going to college campuses should not be praised. Charlie Kirk goes to college campuses to corner well-meaning college kids who don't necessarily know as much of what they're talking about because it's not their job to do politics.
People who have no media training whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
no, yeah, Charlie Kirk's a demon and should be treated as such. I shouldn't be surprised. I'm not really surprised. But the fact that he has Charlie Kirk on first and not someone like further to his left.
Yep. Hassan.
Hassan, the guy who lives in his fucking
California
state.
native.
Very telling.
Well, not native, but.
Very telling the direction in which this party is going to go. His first instinct is to have Charlie Kirk, someone who should be his ideological mortal enemy.
Yes.
He has him on the pod and not someone who is seemingly closer to him. I don't even know anymore. With Hassan.
You should be going on Charlie Kirk's pod and trying to push his audience left and trying to make the left position seem more palatable without compromising your morals and throwing trans people under the bus. Yet again, another instance of liberals think that the reason they're losing is because of the ACLU questionnaire. Liberals think Kamala lost because the ACLU asked her a woke question.
Yeah.
When that didn't register on exit polling as a reason why people got out and voted for Trump.
Well, I don't even think the ACLU asked like what would you do with transgender inmates. I think she might have cooked that one up on her own. I think it was just a blanket question. I could be wrong. I don't know if I remember this correctly, but I think it's partly her fault too for being so flip-floppy.
Democrats get out there and they act fake woke when they think it can win them elections, and then they throw marginalized people under the bus when they don't win elections because they're just uncharismatic.
See, dude, that's the fucking problem, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
But the general critique that I have this week is that Republicans, at least Republicans like Trump, will stand on their positions and pull people towards them, whereas Democrats try to go where they think people are going to be based on polling data, focus groups, or whatever, and that just ends up with the Democrats getting dragged along the side of the road by Trump. So it's stupid.
I mean, that's exactly what this. Gavin Newsom is looking at some polls that come out and say, oh, I should change my position based on this, rather than thinking that he can change the hearts and minds of voters with like his opinion.
Make an argument.
It's the same thing that happened with cops. People saw that Democrats saw that there was some backlash to BLM, and they thought maybe like, oh yeah, cops, whatever, crime wave and whatnot, we need to be pro-cop. And then they decided, okay, we'll be pro-cop, and it didn't do them any favors. And then they said, okay, we're not messaging at all, and people think that there is a crazy crime wave going on with immigrants because conservatives are telling them falsely that there's this massive spike in crime associated with immigrants. Remember, about a year and a half ago, we covered on this podcast a study that came out. I want to say it was by Pew Research. Don't quote me exactly on that, but there was a study that came out by a reputable source that said that people's perception of crime is higher than actual crime was in the 90s crime wave. That is because you don't counter message about crime. That is because you sit there and say like, oh yeah, if people think there's crime, like we need to make people feel safe. You can make people feel safe by counter messaging and telling them that conservatives are lying to you to throw minorities under the bus.
Yeah.
Conservatives are lying to you to pit minorities as your enemy and as your enemy as a tool of white supremacy. Like, it's ridiculous. And that's why we're losing when it comes to immigration. And that's when we'll get to the Slotkin response. When she
we'll get to the fucking Slotkin response.
Yeah, I'll hold myself off. You know what? I'll cut it off right there. We got one more 5-star
We're
review.
in the intro, folks.
We're in the intro. This one on Twitter, fucking titled Sunday Supremacist Review. When I heard the boys were coming to Farmington Hills, I knew I had to finally shed my shackles as a Wednesday weenie and meet my two best friends in a non-parasocial way. And that's what I'm saying, folks.
Shout out.
And who better to have as non-parasocial best friends than Jeremy and Gage? These two consistently deliver insightful commentary on current events, tackling everything from executive orders and Supreme Court decisions to gay nutcrackers and Tim Walz's taco toppings.
It's important.
These are the important issues that the kids are talking about. And really, who's to say which of those categories is more important? Well, actually, I am. I'm the arbiter of discussion and news. The boys keep the news light enough to be enjoyable despite the horrors we live through, and their undeniable chemistry makes every episode an absolute banger.
That's right.
The Hiddo Boys deserve these 5 stars, and if you disagree, argue with the wall. I've been saying this for a while. P.S. I condemn Hamas and all acts of political violence so much that I may have been the first Hiddo head to do so IRL. That's how dedicated I am to condemning them. And speaking to that, I can attest to that. He is the first Hiddo head to come up to us IRL and say that he condemns Hamas and political violence.
Yeah,
and I gotta give a special shout out to all of the Hiddo heads that showed up to the Farmington Community Library this week for our little event about how to podcast.
It was super cool.
It was a wonderful event. I enjoyed very much meeting you all. And a special shout out to one, all the Michiganders that came out, and two, an extra special shout out to the people that came out from Indiana and Ohio.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I mean, we're kind of doing you a favor by getting you out of those states.
100%.
But it is still cool that you came to support us in the great state.
Yeah, especially Ohio.
Oh, yeah, especially Ohio. Especially Ohio. So thank you for coming out to that. Speaking to the Farmington Community Library point, we were also asked a question during our presentation when People of Interest is making a return.
This is true.
We've had a lot going on. As you all know, January was the worst month on record. So it was tough. We did the Q&A during January, but then February, we had a lot of other stuff we were dealing with. We've got lots of pieces moving in the background at the moment. We fully intend to return to People of Interest.
Yeah.
And we apologize that we've said nothing about it.
We've been busybodies trying to do the best for you that we can, and you'll see the fruits of that hopefully soon.
Yeah. But People of Interest will be making a return sometime soon. Just give us some time to cook. And lastly, on some just updates about the pod, we did reach our goal on Patreon.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for getting us there. We couldn't do it without you. Praying hands to you. We'll be announcing more details about that in the coming weeks, so keep an eye on that. And we love you infinitely.
Yeah, just keep in mind, we're busybodies in the background.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah. Time to get into the news, though.
Unfortunately.
We're back in the studio.
Yes.
It's a beautiful day in Michigan. It's getting warmer out.
It really is. It's like springtime. I can't wait for it to get cold again for another 2 weeks. Just hit minus 32. Maybe it'll snow again. And then we'll fully be into spring.
Yeah, we got at least one good snow left in us, I
Absolutely.
think. But I got to throw on the windbreaker today.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other coat. I was very excited about that. Also, personal update. I'm out of physical therapy.
Let's go, baby.
I'm back and better than ever. Still got the metal in my arm, but I'm free from the shackles of
your
10
arm
a.m.
is better, really.
Yeah, no more 10 a.m. PT sessions. Very happy about that. But I think it's time we get into the news.
It is.
And I think we start off talking about Trump's joint session. I know by the time you all listen to this, it'll be 8 days removed from that happening. But I think it's worth to talk about some of this because these will be recurring themes throughout the administration. Then, of course, it'll also lead us into hating on our enemy from our home state.
Number one op. Number one home state op,
Slotkin. So let's start off talking about Trump's joint session that occurred last Tuesday. It was the longest ever joint session / State of the Union address.
It was? It really was?
Yes, it was the longest on record.
This guy can't shut the fuck up.
Just so you know, joint session and State of the Union basically the same thing.
Yeah.
They call it a joint session when it's when you first enter
term.
office, when it's like your first term doing it.
Or first year.
It's a State of the Union for all intents and purposes. It's basically the same thing. So let's go through some of these highlights. So during Trump's speech, there was one part where he listed a bunch of seemingly quote-unquote wasteful spending things within the budget. And I did some of my own journalism for this bit.
Excellent.
I can't really say it's journalism. I just went through the transcript, but I didn't see anybody else doing it like I was doing it. This wasteful spending rant included things like $8 million for making mice transgender,
Nice.
Debatable on if he meant transgenic, which is a different thing.
I'm pretty sure it's got to be transgenic mice.
Yeah.
It really has to be transgenic mice.
That's a completely different
which
thing.
are just mice used for genetic research. It's
Yes.
you take DNA from something else and you put it in mice to study it.
Yeah, so very different thing. But $8 million for transgender mice, that's what he said.
Which, even if there was $8 million for transgender mice, that kind of bangs.
That's interesting.
Kind of bangs. I bet there's some good research.
$10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $1.9 billion for decarbonization of homes. Seems like a good thing.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of other stuff, right? It was just a laundry list of wasteful spending. But once you added all of this up within his speech, the total of all of those wasteful programs, quote unquote, amount to $24.5 billion. With the majority of that coming from an HHS program to provide free housing for migrants, which was $22 billion. So the lion's share of that number comes from that HHS program.
So the wasteful spending that he's highlighting, that he's just fucking bullet pointing off during the State of the Union, is about $2 billion?
Yes,
that's
$2.5 billion
nothing.
So, yeah.
Conservatives are getting so much like rhetorical ground from the idea that $1 billion is a lot of money to a regular person.
Yeah.
People need to understand that $1 billion is not a lot of money to the largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
Like,
and even if we take that on the whole, even if we take the $24 billion number, that's still nothing compared to the total deficit or certainly the total amount of national debt that we
We're what, like not even half a USAID's budget? Man.
Yeah, it's literally nothing. Unfortunately, though, I think this probably sold well, this bit.
I think so, too. I think especially the housing for migrants sells really well. That's one's hard to talk about. It's easy to get in here and say like that is essential because like when Greg Abbott is busing migrants to New York City, where the fuck are you going to put them? Yeah, New York City, not a border state, notoriously, not supposed to be equipped to be able to deal with these kind of problems. So, where else are you going to throw people? It's either you leave them on the streets or you, as the state, take this up and put them up somewhere. Yeah, and hotels are the easiest place to put them up in.
And I support the government assisting people with housing.
I do.
I don't think it's a bad thing if the government helps one person and I don't get help directly. I still think helping one person is good.
Exactly. And eventually I want them to help everybody.
And precisely. That's my goal. Helping some people is better than helping no people.
Yes.
Helping everybody is better than helping some people. That's my position.
But wait, if I'm not getting helped, then it doesn't matter.
That's the issue. It doesn't really matter that a lot of this was either just like random shit, stuff that's out of context, stuff that's a straight up lie, or maybe things that are like important medical research that's being done. I think it looks good for him to list things that are seemingly nonsense or that are framed as nonsense as proof of there being this massive amount of fraud, even though I'm sure a lot of these programs were happening under Trump 1, maybe even authorized by Trump 1. But ultimately, I think this probably goes over well, which is why I think, sort of previewing the hatred we're going to direct towards Slotkin here, I think Slotkin should have used her 20 minutes or whatever it was to list all of the things that Doge and Trump are cutting that are good for the American people.
Like the big dollar stuff that they're cutting.
Talk about how they dismantled the CFPB. Talk about how Trump went after the NLRB. Talk about how they're cutting medical research for universities. Talk about how they're firing air traffic controllers, right? Introduce your laundry list of things that Trump and Doge are cutting and their haphazard method of making the government more efficient, and juxtapose that with probably Trump's best moment of listing the quote-unquote wasteful spending.
Yeah, you can even bust out a chart on there. You can bust out a chart and a little pointer, like the finger pointer things from like elementary school.
People
and say,
love
look at
whiteboards.
This. People love whiteboards.
Yeah.
People love it when Congress people put up whiteboards in like those C-SPAN videos. You know what I'm saying? You can do that. You can compare the spending directly, and you can show that they are cutting more good programs than what most people would consider bad programs. And it's not going to be good for you. I can accept that maybe a sitting congressperson doesn't want to say that the GOP is bringing back cancer in a big way. We can leave that to guys like me. But
then you're going to keep losing. You're going to keep losing. You need to say that.
At the bare minimum, you need to at least get out there and say that they are cutting cancer research.
Yes.
You don't need to say, oh, the GOP wants you to die. I would like it if you said that, but I
it would be realistic. It'd be honest.
It'd be honest and realistic. That's why I say that. But I can accept it if you just put the numbers up. But they don't even want to put the numbers up.
Yeah.
Instead, they want to, I'll hold my tongue.
You could have quantified it. Like, I get it. She's not, because she was responding immediately after Trump.
Yeah.
She's not going to, like, have the exact numbers like I have it because she's responding, like, 5 minutes later.
Which is kind of a problem with the responses.
Yeah.
It's kind of just a built-in problem, the fact that those things are pre-recorded and they're kind of guessing what he's going to talk about.
Yeah, but exactly. You could have predicted he's going to talk about how government's doing waste, fraud, and abuse. He's been saying it for more than a month now.
Or, hear me out, you record multiple versions and have a staffer put them together in the background while the speech is actually going on. Hear me out. You can anticipate your opponent's movements and plan how to respond to them and take out the parts that may have been irrelevant in post and then release that like 30 minutes before it's over.
That's too much for the Democratic Party.
Yes, too much coordination, too much planning.
Yeah, can't do that. So that certainly wasn't great. Another thing that Trump did in his joint session.
No, you know what? I can't accept that. They do that for the fucking Super Bowl. When you're watching a fucking football game, they got staffers working in the background that are putting together highlights from that game that happened two fucking plays ago. They've got highlights ready to go when it hits commercial break.
Yeah.
And you're telling me the Democrats can't do that when democracy's on the line?
Yeah, and we can talk about like the Democrats' response of the people who are sitting in there in a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely pathetic.
Like, what the fuck?
The Republic is on the line.
Yeah.
And we got Alyssa Slotkin up there. It's crazy. Also in Trump's joint session, he talked about Social Security immediately after he was doing this laundry list of wasteful spending items. And this part of the speech confirmed to me Social Security is getting cut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any doubt I had in my mind is gone after I heard this.
And to be clear, we did not have doubts. We did not have doubts. Maybe there was an inkling. Maybe it was like a 95% chance it's getting cut. Now it's 99, 100.
Exactly. There was a small bit of me that was like, no way he actually does it.
Yeah, he
like,
can't possibly get away with that, right?
But now he's definitely doing it. He blatantly spread the lie again about people aged 120 plus getting these Social Security checks. A couple of notes on this. The database doesn't have death dates for everybody. It's a big ass country with a lot of people. There's lots of old people. There have been lots of old people since the creation of Social Security, so that's just how it is. Not everybody in the database gets checks.
Yes.
This is something the Social Security Administration has said themselves. Just because you're in the database doesn't mean you're actively being mailed checks. It's not how it works. It's a database.
Yep.
It just says your information is stored.
This claim has been debunked multiple times over since Elon Musk published it like a week or two ago.
Yes.
Man.
And lastly, of course, which is the point that every Democrat should be hammering home, Trump is just using these examples of quote unquote fraud as a pretext to cut the program entirely. And he's already actively doing this with Social Security, right? He's closing field offices. He's cutting 7,000 workers from the Social Security Administration when the department's already understaffed. They're at like a 50-year low. And at a time when wait times are already way too long, he's cutting Social Security. It's going to happen, and Democrats should be talking about it like he's going to kill Granny.
He's going to kill Granny because that's what he wants to do. He wants Granny to be homeless.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Donald Trump wants to increase the homelessness problem, and it's going to be your grandma?
Yeah.
Man.
Like, Trump does not have a mandate to kill Granny.
He does not.
He doesn't.
He does not. It was to bring egg prices down, and instead egg prices are going up, home prices are going up, and Granny's going to the streets. Ridiculous out here.
Yeah, and the only Democrat to really do anything during the joint session was Al Green, congressman from Texas.
Do anything like genuinely like disruptive.
Yeah, congressman from Texas, and all he did was sort of stand in protest saying you don't have a mandate to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and whatnot.
Which is valid.
And then he got kicked out by Mike Johnson, which I think was ultimately a good show. No one will remember this after a while, right? It's not going to win or lose any elections, but at least someone tried something.
Yeah.
But I think it made the rest of the party look even worse for doing nothing.
It absolutely did. And
that's not his fault.
I'm going to get into that in a minute because there's some like behind the scenes stuff that came out by Axios reporting like afterwards that it would not have been it would have been hit against my integrity if I saw this information and did not report it on the podcast because I don't like Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah.
I think Democratic leadership is crazy. But at the very least, what Al Green did brought some extra attention to the idea that Trump is going to cut Medicaid, going to cut Medicare, going to cut Social Security. Yeah. Hell, Medicaid cuts are already in the Republican budget. It's just going to have to be approved by the Senate before they do. And if no other Democrat wants to use what is kind of the biggest political, like traditional political platform of the year to say it, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I personally think Democrats should have thrown eggs.
I think, oh my God, if they would have actually,
and then afterwards,
throwing eggs,
afterwards they could have been like, that stunt cost $2 million in Trump's economy. Like they could have said some shit like that. Like they could make the egg. The egg should be the centerpiece of the political resistance right now. The price of an egg, because people are angry about it. Egg prices are genuinely too expensive right now, and it shows that Trump isn't actually doing anything to help people.
Fucking spoiler alert for something we're going to talk about a little bit later. There were some ideas that were floated around, like amongst like Democratic representatives, about what they should do to protest Trump's joint session. And one of the ideas that was floated was the idea that they should bring egg cartons to kind of show people that, like, hey, price of eggs way too high right now. Yeah. That got shot down. That got shot down by Hakeem Jeffries and party leadership. They said, no, that's too disruptive. We can't do that. That's too against decorum to be bringing that. Somebody said, oh, I should bring a fucking pocket constitution. No. That's too disruptive.
He's twerking naked in Congress right now. He's twerking naked in Congress right now. And you're talking about decorum?
Yeah.
Come on, brother.
It's too much to bring cartons of eggs. That's why he got elected. That's why he got elected. Oh, my goodness, man.
Before we get into Slotkin's response, though, I do got to say, just on a sort of thematic note, Trump is really acting like he has the mandate of heaven to just do whatever he wants.
He gets up there and he says, God saved me so that I can do this. I wouldn't be surprised if he literally thinks that God saved him.
He does all this when he had one of the slimmest popular vote margins in presidential history. His party in the House has one of the slimmest margins in congressional history.
It is the slimmest margin possible.
Yeah.
You cannot have a slimmer margin than what he has right now.
And then Republicans last election cycle just got lucky with an auspicious Senate map. And even with that Senate map, they lost most of the Senate swing state races.
Yes.
Like, they do not have a mandate to govern in terms of, like, doing whatever they want. He had a mandate to lower the price of eggs. That's all he had a mandate to do. And they're acting like he has a mandate to do literally anything he wants. Like you said, he's literally saying he was saved by God to save this country.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And the fact that, like, Democrats aren't pushing back on this idea that he has a mandate to do whatever he wants just because Republicans have a super slim majority in Congress is ridiculous. Like, I mean, we've got Hakeem Jeffries out here saying, like, we have literally no leverage. They have a mandate.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
He literally said that. The fucking craziest thing ever. God, man. God, he sucks so bad. And it's like, I shouldn't have to hear that Republicans are already functionally cutting Social Security by closing down field offices from Sam Cedar. I love Sam Cedar. I think Majority Report does some of the best, if not the best, reporting from the progressive left. Like,
certainly.
Just on YouTube, in media, in general. I should be hearing from actual representatives that field offices are closing down, and that's going to stop you from collecting your benefits, resolving your claims. That should be something that the news is constantly talking about because that is a functional cut to Social Security. That is how they are fulfilling this agenda without actually taking the dollars away in the House.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, all he had a mandate to do was lower the price of eggs, and he is failing to do that. In fact, he's reposting articles that have Charlie Kirk saying, like, you need to shut up about egg prices.
Crazy.
Trump was reposting that.
Crazy.
Trump thinks you should shut up about the price of eggs. The egg should be the centerpiece of the political resistance right now.
They freaked out when supply shock after COVID caused egg prices in California to go up to $7. We live in the Midwest, and egg prices are fucking $5 to $10. Dog.
Yeah.
And I get that there's a bird flu epidemic. I understand the reasons why egg prices are so high right now. But one, Trump's HHS is not really communicating about the bird flu epidemic. And two, Trump was talking about the price of eggs is not to say that it is necessarily Trump's fault that egg prices are going higher. Although I'm not necessarily going to get upset when somebody does say that, you know what I mean? Because they don't get upset when people talk about Joe Biden making egg prices higher, even though he didn't necessarily do that.
Right.
Talking about egg prices serves the function of holding Trump accountable to the statements and the promises that he made. Yeah. Caroline Leavitt loves to go up there and do her press conferences and say promises made, promises kept. The biggest promise of this election was lowering egg prices on day one. It's day, God knows, however, we're 7 weeks in and egg prices continue to climb. Yeah. This is holding Trump accountable for the things he's saying. I don't care if it's the bird flu. He should have been open and honest about the American people if he's going to get out here and be frustrated about them getting upset about egg prices.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's not great. Before we get into Slotkin, a couple of other just like random things. Trump's team seemingly found like every mother that lost a daughter to some immigrant that committed a crime that they could find in the United States. That was crazy. They brought a student there who got drilled by a volleyball, spiked by a trans athlete. That was interesting. Just crazy generalizations being made at the Capitol this past week.
And it's just like, we talk about it every time we talk about like anti-trans legislation, especially legislation in state legislators that talk about banning trans women in girls' sports. Yeah. You are talking to like, I don't know, hundreds of millions of people in the country when you do these joint addresses. You know what I mean? This is the most widely kind of like...
It's the biggest event of the year.
It's the biggest political event of the year when you do a State of the Union or a joint session of Congress. And you are using the time that you have up there to target like literally a handful of girls.
Oh, yeah. And he was going back and forth between immigrants and trans people, blaming them for the deaths of young girls.
Yeah.
Like, that's all he was doing.
Crazy. Wicked times we live in, man. What about the kitchen table issues?
I hate commercials.
Me too.
I hate listening to them. I hate when I hear them, whether it's on TV or on podcasts.
Grr, I just can't stand commercials.
They're the worst. And the one place you can go to avoid commercials, like this one you're listening to right now, is patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Become a patron, and you get early access to our episodes, and they're all completely commercial free. No more interruptions.
And you could be one of our friends.
And that's arguably the more important point.
And, in trying times like this, friendship is what we really need.
Friendship's really important. And you can buy your way into being a friend of ours by heading over to patreon.com/intheofficepod. Again, early access to episodes, no commercials, access to all of our content before anyone else sees it. Become a patron. Makes it even worse that Democrats are completely useless in this regard. And I guess that can bring us to Slotkin. That shit sucked, dog.
It was so bad, man.
Just to start, like, Bernie's response was obviously better, but I watched Slotkin's, but that's because that's the more important one in terms of where the Democratic Party is going to go.
Yes.
I know Bernie's going to be good and on message. Bro's been touring. He just came to our state recently. I know what he's going to say, and I know it's going to be good.
This dude, Bernie, came to Warren, Michigan, and pulled a crowd of, 9,000, 10,000 people at a fucking high school.
He pulled 2,000 in rural Wisconsin. Do you think Slotkin can pull up in rural Wisconsin?
No.
Nobody else is pulling up in rural Wisconsin.
Slotkin is going on a listening tour across Michigan. I'd be surprised if she pulls, 200 people in Macomb, or in Wayne. Oh, my God, man.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and it's I thought the first couple minutes of what Slotkin said were okay.
Yeah.
She starts it off all right. She's not hitting the emotional affect that I want from a politician in a moment like this, like Bernie is. But she's oh, blah blah blah, economics. She hits the Social Security thing. She says he wants to cut Medicaid and stuff like that. Doesn't really go into as much detail as I'd like. But then the first little red flag rears its ugly little head when she says, my mom was a Democrat. My dad was a Republican.
Yeah, that's always the dynamic, right?
And they could come together because they had shared values. Liberal women and their conservative boyfriends and partners are ruining the world. Oh, my God, man.
I feel like to most audiences, especially the suburban whites, this just translates to my bitch mom was a Democrat and my strong dad was a Republican. Do you know what I mean, though?
My strong dad who controlled the fucking bills in the house and paid all the bills and got shit done.
And I think that's a stereotype. I don't think it's a real indicative, a real thing that's representative of the world. But I think that's how it's read to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that sucks. that sucks to be a imagery that she evokes, purposefully evokes.
And it's she used that, again, as a foot in the door to then go and say, Reagan would be turning in his grave if he saw what Trump was doing. Brother.
Do these people not know about FDR?
Literally,
did they just pick up a history book?
She said
after
she
the
was
70s?
a student of history.
Yeah,
she said she was a student of history. Doesn't want to talk about anything. Man, the part that kind of pissed me off the most, other than it just kind of being bad and sucking, was when she goes, "If Trump was president during the Cold War instead of Reagan, we would have lost. Nobody cares about the Cold War. Nobody thinks about the Cold War anymore. It's not even one of those wars that people watch a lot of documentaries about, like World War II.
Well, and it's I
was a Cold War kid. I don't care.
Yeah, I know, and you went to the CIA. It's sort of cliche to say at this point. I feel like it's said a lot of the time about the Democrats, but that moment told me that this speech was of the wrong era.
Yes.
We aren't in the Cold War anymore. We're not even in the post-Cold War period of the 2000s and the late 90s.
You can get away with this in 2004.
Yeah, it's just not where we are anymore. It's not where the Republicans are anymore, and that's why the Democrats keep falling behind, because you guys haven't changed and the Republicans have. They've adapted to the times quicker.
They're trying to do the adults in the room thing that Hillary Clinton did without remembering that Hillary Clinton lost. Bigly. Man.
And Kamala Harris did the same thing. She also just lost. Biden did the same thing, but he only won because of COVID.
Yep.
And maybe the BLM protests as well.
Yeah, there was the confluence of factors that got Biden elected, but it's just entirely feckless, man. And she's not doing it. I watched on my way over to the studio today. I listened to the Bernie address, and then immediately right after, I listened to Alyssa Slotkin's response, and it's just a world of difference between the two. Alyssa Slotkin's sounds rehearsed to death.
Yeah.
That's not, people fundamentally do not want speeches that sound rehearsed right now. That's why Trump is popular.
Yeah.
That's kind of why they fuck with the guy, because they think he says it like it is.
It's authentic.
And he's willing to be combative with his rhetoric. Bernie got out there, and out the gate, he started bullet points. He gets out there and he said, Trump said he doesn't want to cut Social Security. He lied. Trump said this. He lied. And it's fun to listen to, man.
And Bernie sounds angry.
He does.
At a time when people are angry, when people are anxious, they want someone to match the vibe.
Yeah.
As we always say, you can't catch a vibe, you can't do politics. And Slotkin did not catch the vibe.
Messaging is just as much how you deliver the information as it is what information is being delivered. If you can give the most fucking accurate and truthful statement whatsoever, but if you say it in a way that people don't want to listen to, nobody's going to hear you. That's where the magic is when it comes to charismatic politicians. That's why they fucking win. Why can't we just get a cool person up there?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And I think ultimately, the delivery was fine. I don't think she fumbled it in terms of the imagery or how it looked or how it sounded or anything. It's just the message was entirely off and resonates with nobody. This is for nobody. At this point, nobody cares that you worked in the CIA.
And then
she was like, "Oh, I know what it's like to see democracies flicker." It's like, yeah, because you toppled them. That was your job. You worked for the agency that did that. I mean, in its waning years, the CIA isn't what it used to be anymore in terms of global dominance, but still.
Yeah, and it's also she gets in there and in the middle of Reagan would have what was that quote she took from Reagan?
Oh, it was well, there was one where Trump said peace through strength or something like that, and she was like, he stole that from Reagan.
And Reagan wouldn't like that.
Yeah, Reagan would be rolling in his grave if he could see Trump.
Bitch, Reagan would be rolling in his grave when gay marriage got legalized. There's a lot of things going on right now that Reagan's rolling in his fucking grave about, man.
Reagan's the reason Trump is here now.
Reagan's the reason that everything sucks right now. Wealth inequality got so much worse. Dude killed gay people and made poor people poorer.
Yeah.
That's what Reagan did.
Yeah.
That's not something that should be venerated, even if you think you can use it as a way to get a rhetorical win. And again, try and appeal to the 3 Lincoln Project conservatives that maybe vote for you.
Yeah, and it's so annoying because she did the same sort of thing with George Bush, although for some reason Reagan was more prominent. And she was like, George Bush, Obama, they were both leaders that cared about national security. She does the same sort of thing with Reagan, and it's like, Reagan funded the group that eventually became Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
Do we care about national security or not? It's just this
also,
completely false view of history.
Did he not get elected because of the Iran hostage thing?
Yeah.
Come on now. I don't think these people really care about national security.
Yeah.
I would argue that a lot of George Bush's actions with the Iraq war and our intervention in the Middle East actually made us less secure as a nation. I don't know, man.
Yeah. And it's like, she was like, I did 2 tours in Iraq, and it's like, well, that was the bad one. I mean, a lot of them were bad, but you get what I mean. The worst one out of the options in the Middle East, right?
Oh man! And then she gets on there and it felt like a weird 180 in the middle of the speech where she goes, but also I think we need a secure borders where people can come here legally to work and contribute to our economy. So, and she said, "quote So I look forward to the president's plan on that."
Yeah.
You shouldn't be looking forward to the president's plan on anything. This motherfucker is getting out there and on the White House account posting deportation ASMR. He is posting deportation ASMR, and he's posting B-roll hype videos of brown people being loaded up on military planes to be sent to fucking Latin America. And you are saying you look forward to that guy's plan on immigration? The guy who said he's going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it? That's the guy whose plan we're looking forward to? We should be looking forward to anything he does.
Yeah, and I think she might have been saying it ironically in the sense I look forward to his plan. He's not going to have a plan, but she didn't make that point.
But it's it's not clear.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just too cynical. I admit that I'm kind of biased against
but that's my point is she didn't make that point. She didn't make the point that he has no plan. She said, we got to fix the broken immigration system, which sort of trite to say that at this point. It's broken, but you voted for the Laken Riley Act.
I was going to say, her legislative record, I feel doesn't support the idea that she's not actually looking forward to his plan on that.
Yeah, she says that. She says she basically wants a conservative answer on the border, and then she says, I'm looking forward to Trump's plan, and then does not elaborate any further.
Man, did Tom Homan need to be confirmed?
No, I don't think so.
No, because he's the fake position, right? Borders are or something like that.
Yeah, borders are.
But I wonder if she voted for Kristi Noem.
I don't know, but Slotkin voted for, I think, more of the Trump cabinet appointments than most senators.
She was one of the Democrats that voted for the most Trump appointments. So it's
And why? To what end?
You could have withheld that vote. You literally did not have to vote for any of that. You're just love of the game.
Yeah.
Love of centrism.
Yeah,
she is a centrist Democrat.
She's a centrist Democrat, and I think it's telling that the party chose her over any of the other rising stars. Doesn't have to be a senator. Could be a member of the House, too.
And it's again, we talked about this last week. Why is she a rising star? Because she won in Michigan? Dog, every down ballot race overperformed for Democrats relative to Kamala Harris in Michigan.
Yes.
Except maybe the state legislature where we lost, the House?
Yeah.
But
it's still slim margins, though.
But come on, man.
Yeah.
Could have picked Tammy Baldwin. Like you said last week, you could have picked anybody else.
Yeah.
Is it always a senator that gets picked?
No, it could be a House.
So many to choose from.
There's so many options in the House. You got Ro Khanna, you got AOC, you got Jasmine Crockett, you got Anna Presley.
There's so many. Man.
There's so many that you could have chose from that are rhetorically better, sound better, more authentic. So many options.
Yeah.
I get they're not going to choose Bernie. Bernie's not even a formal member of the Democratic Party. He's an independent.
That's true.
In the Senate. I get it. I wish they would, but I get it. They're not going to do it. But like, there's so many other options.
But it's also
so much better.
It's so telling that Bernie's response got so many, like millions more views than Alyssa Slotkin's response did. And it's like, I don't want to hear somebody boring come on and talk after I listen to Trump for 90 minutes.
I'm already tired. It's 11:30.
I'm already tired. He gave apparently the longest State of the Union address ever, and he just rambled.
Yeah. One last note from me on this. Bernie right now, like I said, he's touring the country. Good on him. 83, still fighting. I wish he could just relax, but we didn't give him the election he deserved. I do find it interesting that, Biden loses and disappears, Harris loses and disappears, Hillary Clinton loses and disappears, Obama shows back up anytime he can squash a progressive from winning during a presidential primary. And Bernie's the only one, despite, losing 2 presidential elections in the primary, he's the only one still taking it to the voters and like doing anything effective.
And he's pulling wicked crowds.
Yeah.
Like, find me another senator that can pull crowds like that, going to red counties, red districts. Because I think the point of the Fight the Oligarchy tour is to go to close red districts that were like contestable in the last election. Who else is
He was in rural Wisconsin. He was in Warren, Michigan. Yeah.
Literally no other senator, I think, could go out there and pull crowds like that.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer's not fucking doing it.
No, absolutely not. And like, some people have been commenting like on our Patreon video or on our Patreon episode specifically that, sometimes we don't mention Jasmine Crockett or some of the other ones. I certainly like those people.
I do.
And I think they should be given more airtime than any of the options that Hakeem Jeffries puts forward or even Hakeem Jeffries himself. But man, I feel like nobody but those few good people, like Ro Khanna included, none of them are doing it good.
It's almost strictly progressives that are doing things.
Yeah.
Like, Jasmine Crockett has been having great media moments. There was a moment where the journalist...
She's funny.
She's hilarious, dude. Yeah. There was a moment when the journalist came up to her, what do you think about Elon Musk? She said, fuck off.
Yeah.
That's gas. That's the
line.
kind of fucking energy we need right now. I think that's the kind of energy that American people want to hear. And Ro Khanna is out here introducing bills into the House that would ban White House officials from becoming lobbyists. That's gas. Yeah. That is actually fighting the swamp and draining the swamp like Trump says he wants to do. But liberal media doesn't want to highlight those things. Those are the contradictions that should be highlighted. That's the hypocrisy that should be being highlighted right now, because these are the people that are actually trying to fucking do something.
Yeah, and once you introduce the bill, take it to the media and say Republicans didn't give this a vote or they voted this down.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to pass, right?
It's 100%.
So you can say Republicans, we tried to drain the swamp. We tried to get corruption out of the White House, but they wouldn't let us do it.
Man, it's fucked
Easy
up out
peasy.
here. And it's like, if you're wondering why progressives are almost literally the only people that are actually getting out there and doing anything right now, it's because party leadership is almost explicitly not letting anybody do anything. And just fucking a crazy report by Axios came out this week that said Jeffries and other senior leaders had meetings on Thursday where they scolded people like Al Green and Jasmine Crockett for their disruptions at the State of the Union.
What did Jasmine Crockett do?
Walked out.
Oh my fucking
Jasmine
God.
Crockett, all she did was walk out during the middle of the speech, and she got scolded by Hakeem Jeffries. That's insane.
What was the only approved thing, like color coordinated outfits or the paddles? That was all they approved?
Paddles weren't even approved.
Paddles weren't approved.
Reportedly, leadership was very unhappy that some members of Congress chose to dismiss, quote, traditional methods of protest like outfit coordination and refusing to clap during the speech.
That's not a protest.
That's not a protest at all. And that's my point. These are, the lamest, quote unquote, disruptive options available. And I would sure fucking hope that Democrats don't get out there and clap for the things that Trump is saying right now. It is the bare minimum to not clap for Trump targeting transgender kids when he's out there. The bare minimum, do not clap for that. That is not a protest. The essence of protesting is to be disruptive.
Yeah.
You're not fucking doing anything.
Yeah.
Nobody is going to get out there and say, yeah, man, it really like got to me when I saw that the Democrats weren't clapping for Trump when he said that there's a 350-year-old on Social Security. Like, it really is, I don't know, man, that's really helping me highlight these issues. No, people are made aware of these things when Al Green gets out there and yells at him that he doesn't have a mandate. And then media's like, hey, yo, why'd you do that? And Al Green gets airtime to talk to more people to say that Trump is cutting Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare.
Yeah. And he's just a member of the House.
And he got fucking yelled at by Hakeem Jeffries for that.
That's great. And he got censured, including 10 Democrats voting to do it too.
Insane.
Stupid as shit
It
ever,
should be
dog.
excommunicated from the party.
Yes.
Like, what do you mean? What are you doing, man? You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Why are it sent?
Censorship is just, it's just like a slap on the wrist. It doesn't matter. Like, there's no real punishment attached to it. Rashida Tlaib got censured for being pro-Palestine.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Like, they don't get kicked out or lose anything like that. But it's symbolic. And it shows that Democrats are stupid and feckless.
Yes, dude. And it's like color coordination. In this political climate.
Come on, dog.
In this political climate, you want to protest by wearing the same color? To the fucking State of the Union? The camera's not even on you.
Well, camera's not on you, and nobody knows what it means.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, there were some people wearing pink, there were some in purple, there were some in white. Like, I don't, like, you didn't tell us what the purpose of it is, so I don't even know what the meaning is. Even if I knew the meaning, it's not doing anything.
If you want to fucking do an outfit protest, show up in drag. Like that would actually be something. Show up in fucking drag to protest drag bans and how that is used as an issue to just attack the trans community, even though they're like not necessarily related. It's like there's maybe a Venn diagram, but it's not very much overlap. You know what I mean? But like, show up in fucking drag. Do something that's outrageous. Don't just wear a pink suit. Don't just wear a black suit like you always do. Like, it's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, what do you mean? This is how you wanted to communicate to the American people that something is wrong?
They don't have the sauce, man.
I didn't even watch the address. Most people don't even sit there and watch the fucking TV. I listened to it.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I don't understand. I guess I imagine you're getting into Hakeem Jeffries here in a bit. Okay, I'll save it.
A little bit maybe. I might not be getting into it with you, but like leadership also thought it would be too disruptive to, like I said earlier, bring fucking props like signs to the address. Not even the liar signs. Like I said earlier, they didn't want people to bring egg cartons. They didn't even want people to bring pocket constitutions, even though that one's corny.
What would they bring pocket constitutions for? Just
because
to flash
Trump
them up?
is being unconstitutional.
That's like the simplest thing to do.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like that's well within like the liberal mind.
Oh my God. Does Hakeem Jeffries just not want them to try anything?
Well, in a Dear Colleagues letter Jeffries sent to House Democrats, he urged a, quote, strong, determined, and dignified Democratic presence in the chamber. So Democrats should not go beyond traditional protest methods like those mentioned above, and bringing those hurt by Trump/Doge's actions as guests. Guests don't fucking mean anything.
As guests, they'll just sit there.
Exactly. Camera pans to him, maybe, and nobody talks about it.
Well, there's nobody to call out the guests because Trump's the one speaking.
Exactly. The only guests that matter are the ones that are there that Trump can go say, look at this one, something happened.
Yeah.
And then blame a minority.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Look at this person was victimized by a minority, therefore minorities are bad. Like,
it's fucking stupid,
unless they're pulling up with like grandmas up there, and then they immediately go to the media later and say Trump wants to kill this lady. Then I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter.
And like, they don't got the sauce for that. If you did that, Jeffries would probably get you censured. Like, and if you said that in the media.
A source familiar with these scolding meetings that Jeffries and other top Democrats held with the disruptors told Axios that these meetings weren't about yelling at the disruptors, but rather, quote, a consultative process, continuing to then say, quote, we understand the pressure they are under. They are not being talked to like they are children. We are helping them understand why their strategy is a bad idea. The strategy that's a bad idea, getting up and walking out in the middle of the speech, yelling at Trump that he doesn't have a mandate to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, which he does not, and holding up signs calling him a liar.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not a good idea. Those are the only things that got media attention.
I was going to say the most powerful thing in terms of media attention and just like morally was Al Green standing up.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't like that much.
No.
It wasn't doing a ton. It'll be forgotten after a little while, but that was more than anything else anybody did.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Nobody is talking about fucking color coordination. Again, nobody on fucking Rachel Maddow isn't sitting there like, yeah, it was really powerful that the Democrats didn't clap. I sure fucking hope they don't clap.
My God,
it's
not even a form of protest.
Exactly.
It's just sitting there.
It's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
It's the bare minimum.
It's doing nothing rather than doing something. Yeah. It's completely insane.
And then an anonymous House Democrat also went on to tell Axios, quote, it doesn't surprise me that leadership is very upset. They gave specific instructions not to do that, those methods of protest I just mentioned, and, quote, would they have done that to Nancy Pelosi? You know the answer. Never, the lawmaker said. So you've got to put the hammer down. I would sure hope they did this to Nancy Pelosi if she was directing them to do nothing in the face of, I don't know, seniors dying, cancer research being defunded, a bunch of other bad stuff being back in a big way.
Like you can't have this be the method if you genuinely believe Trump is going after the Constitution, if he's violating the Constitution in his oath of office or whatever Hakeem Jeffries wants to argue.
Yeah.
Like if you genuinely believe the Republic is on the line, this cannot be the response.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And it's like, speaking to why some Democrats went on to say Democrats and leadership itself feel like they should maintain, I guess, decorum and not do anything effective. Another anonymous House Democrat told Axios, quote, there are definitely a lot of constituents that really want Democrats to disrupt. And there are constituents who feel like that just plays into his hands being Trump. I don't doubt that there are constituents in these blue stronghold states that don't actually have to worry or fight for anything, that think that maybe it would be advantageous to Trump's cause to feed into this persecution complex that conservatives has. Even though, history says they're just going to do it anyway, no matter what you do. I don't doubt that they believe that, and they're telling representatives like Jeffries and other people from these blue strongholds that that's how they should go forward. But nobody who wants decorum and nobody who wants to do, quote, these sacred halls style politics is ever going to look at the Republicans as a reasonable option to that. This is not a base of support that you really ever have to risk losing unless you do something egregious. Unless it's your corporate donors and your billionaire donors that are telling you this. The actual people that you risk losing by literally doing nothing in the face of Trump wanting to kill your grandma are the people who actively want politicians to be speaking to the issues and to be combative in their rhetoric, like Trump.
Yeah.
Those are the people you risk to losing. You're never going to risk losing like the Democrats, like the solid like Democrats that are always there, that love Congress and love the Constitution, because the Republicans are just such an egregious option.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, doing something could play into his hands, maybe, but doing nothing just allows him to fill the airwaves and push his narrative without pushback.
Yeah.
Like, trying something is better than trying nothing at all.
Exactly.
And I don't think Al Green played into his hands at all. Like, there's maybe ways that Trump could have played it off, like, oh, he's being so dramatic, or, there's something sort of, sassy he could have responded with that would have made Trump look good, but he didn't. I think Al Green ultimately got the moment he was looking for, and you got to try something. At the end of the day, you got to try something.
And it's like, you want to risk losing the voters who are actually on the margins, who could actually turned out by you by just being charismatic, because you don't want representatives to check notes, hold up props.
Yeah.
That's the fucking line in the sand right here. That's the line in the sand. You don't want them to, or walk out of the address when they say something bad.
Like, not even the paddle boards?
Not even the paddle
Those weren't even approved?
No.
That's like, I looked at the paddle boards and I was like, Hakeem Jeffries organized that.
Yeah, because it's like a bare minimum kind of response.
Yeah, but to know that that was even a bridge too far for him, come on, man. Fakest speaker of all time.
That's what I'm saying, man. No traditional methods of protest. You can't even walk out. He's like, yeah, I understand why some people don't want to show up. That's like it. Really, you understand why some people don't want to show up?
Yeah, I don't know if not showing up is the right move.
I don't either. But showing up and leaving in the middle, that's gas, because then they can't put a seat filler in there.
They should have just kept heckling him. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert heckled Joe Biden nonstop.
Oh,
they never got kicked out.
I know. And nobody cared. They did not lose their base of support for that. Like, you're never going to lose like these like informed people who love government to the Republicans. Because they're always going to be informed enough to understand that your policies are better and your policies would better help the American people than conservatives' policies. They may just be a little upset at you.
Yeah, no, I don't think there literally is any voter that's voting for Democrats that wants Democrats to do something that saw Al Green and was like, oh, that's too much.
Exactly.
I would like to meet that person.
I would love to pick their brain.
And then bonk them on the head. Because I don't know what's wrong with them. You know what I'm saying?
Need a lobotomy. Oh, my goodness, man. It's ridiculous, man. And like we've been saying, the people who are getting the media attention are the people like Al Green.
Yeah.
Nobody else. I didn't hear Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah. Not once.
Not once.
I don't even know where he was.
I think I saw him on an interview where he's like, oh, yeah, people are trying a little too hard.
There was an interview he did with Katie Couric recently, I think, where he basically said that some people want to fight back, but I think we need to bring people together. And first he said, her question was basically like, what do you say to people that want you to fight back more?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm from Brooklyn. I know how to fight.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. That's the thing I was thinking of.
But right now, I think we need to bring people together. It's like, dog, you should hate them.
Yeah,
you should hate them.
I don't want to fight. They want to kill you.
Yeah, they want you and your constituents to die.
They want the old ladies that live in your district to die.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, they want the people who have cancer in your district to not have access to better treatments in the future.
And they might make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, they're on the verge of making it happen.
They're actively the only thing stopping the NIH from, like, places like the University of Michigan from not having a $183 million yearly budget cut due to Trump's stupid rule is Biden judges. Like,
and Trump might just ignore them.
And Trump might just ignore them, man.
We're like, what, 50 days in at this point, something like that? Like,
we got a long way to go.
We have a long way to go, and I would not be surprised if Trump starts ignoring judges at some point. I mean, he basically already said he has the authority to do so.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is constantly saying, like, any judge anywhere should not be able to stop presidential actions. J.D. Vance is saying that same thing. Trump said he who saves his nation violated no law. Like, they clearly are pushing the boundaries of the Constitution here. They are this close and half an inch away from just completely ignoring constitutional law. And then what do? You're going to bring people together over what? There's nothing to bring people together for anymore.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid, man.
And it's like, you know who's bringing people together? Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
Bernie Sanders, when he pulls up to red districts and pulls on 9,000 people, 2,000 people, like, you're not drawing those crowds, Hakeem.
Nobody's doing it like him. I did see Tim Walz said he's going to start doing a similar thing.
Tim Walz is redeeming him. Tim Walz, I don't think did anything wrong, but after the loss, I was bitter about anybody attached to the Biden administration.
Including him, just because he was on the campaign and he did get muzzled. But I think there may be room for him to at least try in 2028. Yeah.
I don't know if there'd be as much baggage considering he was just the running mate and he's got like a solid record from Minnesota. And what's actually convincing me of this is he went on Politico and he did an article to say we needed to be more aggressive.
Yep.
He said
we played it too safe.
Yep. And that's exactly what happened. He said I got muzzled. Which, hell yeah.
He said we played it too safe. He specifically said we didn't do enough like media appearances or town halls. And I think he said somewhere in there like even if we were doing town halls with people that disagree with us, that makes moments and we get to answer questions. And he thought they should have done more of that. So I'm a little bit more hopeful for him. It's only been a few months since the election season, and he's already pushing back.
Yeah.
And now he's saying he wants to do a sort of Bernie Sanders style tour where he's going to red districts, specifically in those areas where Republicans aren't holding town halls anymore because they got heckled by their own people.
True.
That's where Tim Walz says he wants to go. And if he can sort of prove himself.
Republicans just not doing town halls anymore?
The NRCC, who is responsible for fundraising for House Republicans, put out a memo that said, don't do town halls anymore. Because
don't talk to your constituents anymore.
He said, you're getting blasted and it looks bad. Stop doing town halls. So Tim Walz responds by saying, I will come to your district and talk to you.
That's gas.
Yes.
Like, that is good.
And my point is, like, this is undeniably the only way forward.
Yeah.
The only way you can take the ball and push it in the left direction or take it away from Republicans and pull it away from them is by taking it straight to the constituents. And most importantly, as we've been hammering on for months, name an enemy. The enemy has to be Donald Trump, of course, because he's the guy in office. The oligarchy or the rich.
Yeah.
Like you have to appoint an enemy, and it has to be the people that are stealing from the working class. And you got to use terms like the working class, not the middle class. Middle class isn't a real thing. Yeah. The working class.
You know, that is interesting. Democrats really don't ever mention the working class.
No.
It is just the middle class. Yeah. They never talk about poor people.
Yeah, well, because the middle class, anybody can fix themselves onto it.
Yeah.
And imagine themselves as better than the poors.
Yep.
But not the rich, right? Because, you know, obviously a lot of people aren't rich.
But working class, you're all united together, and you have to, I don't know, break bread with the dirty, nasty poors.
The poors and people that aren't white, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, can you imagine?
Exactly.
Oh, my
the
goodness.
horror, right? No, but yeah, like it's the only way forward for the Democratic Party. And what astounds me, that'd be the last thing I say until we talk about tariffs, before we talk about tariffs. What astounds me is I feel like progressives, like us on this show, people that listen, and certainly the elected officials like AOC, Bernie, Jessamine Crockett, and so on, I feel like progressives are the only ones that actually want to do anything to make sure the Democratic Party can win.
Yes.
Like, I feel like liberals, like Alyssa Slotkin, or I guess she's more of a centrist, neo-lib, neocon kind of person, and people like Hakeem Jeffries, they don't actually give a damn if they win. Like, progressives are the only ones that actually want positive electoral outcomes.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's like a prevailing idea within like the neoliberal part of the party, I guess the liberal pejorative part of the party, that thinks that if they just sit back and let Trump's actions speak for themselves, that voters will register that and act accordingly without them having to actually, I don't know, risk doing anything. But that has failed. Routinely, actually. There's been 8 years of Trump speaking for himself, and voters have not responded to his actions in the way that they should because there has been no opposition party getting out there and telling people why they should be oppositional to Trump's actions.
Right.
They just give conservatives all the media time to lie.
Yeah, you need a counter narrative. You can't just let things fester on their own.
And I mean, that's what Bernie Sanders did in his address. He got out there and said Trump says a lie, and then all of conservative social media gets out there and repeats it. They blast it on the airwaves.
Got to do it, man.
Got to do it.
Got to do it. Before we get off of Trump news, we'll briefly talk about tariffs because last week we said that Trump was going to wait until April 2nd, and then he switched up, I think, on Monday.
I love that.
And announced that 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico would go into place, and indeed they did, and the stock market tanked. Those tariffs are being drawn back again now. Trump rolled back tariffs or decreased tariffs in some way on spare car makers, potash, which I think is an ingredient in... I don't remember. It's something. You can look it up for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, fucking.
It's an import from Canada.
Figured out lazy leftist.
Maybe soil, something, I don't know. And a couple of other things. Something like 50 to 60% of the tariffs on Canada and Mexico are still in place, so they're not completely gone, but he did draw some of them back. Meanwhile, Canada and Mexico are threatening retaliatory tariffs. Can't blame them here. Doug Ford, the conservative PM of Ontario, is basically threatening to nuke the Midwest.
Yeah, that dude said we're cutting off power.
Yeah, he is, to his credit, more of an opposition party to Trump than the Democrats are right now.
And he's not even in this country.
And he's not even on the left. He's just a Canadian.
And bro said he's going to turn my power off. Bro said he's going to make my DTE bill hell.
Yeah, he was like, Americans, I don't want to do this, but you have to feel the hurt. And it's like, fuck, dog, I can't even disagree. We're the enemy now. Like, I don't know what to say. The stock market, as I said, also took a nosedive. I wouldn't be surprised if it rebounds, though. It was down all week, then jumped up again on Friday. So who knows, right? The market could adjust to these tariffs. People that are investing in the stock market could decide, actually, that the tariffs aren't that big of a deal for the economy. I don't know. I feel like the uncertainty of, the sort of degree of the tariffs hurts the stock market overall because capitalism tends to like stability. But, you never know. Trump's administration is for the rich, so the stock market might not be hurt all that much. Well, stock market's not an indicator for human well-being anyway.
We just got to wait and see if Kramer says the market's going to go up. We just got to wait and see if Kramer says the market's going to boom, and that's how we know things are about to be really bad.
So true. So true.
This episode of Head in the Office is brought to you by Ground News.
Media literacy is a key component of our podcast here, but spotting the biases in news and reporting, especially in our nonstop media landscape, can be hard. Thankfully, the folks over at Ground News are working to make this a lot easier.
Ground News is an app and a website that collects news from all around the world and puts it in one place so you can compare coverage, uncover political biases, and learn who is funding each publication.
Ground News has a lot of cool features, such as the bias distribution, which shows you the political leanings of the sources reporting on each story, and the blind spot tab, which highlights stories that are being missed by either the left or the right. Ground News will even tell you your own news bias based on the articles you've read on their site.
If you're interested in Ground News, you can go to check.ground.news/headintheoffice for 40% off. The link is also in the description. We would suggest taking a look at their Vantage plan to unlock all the fancy features we referenced, and subscribing to Ground News also helps out the show, which we know you all want to do.
Special thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this podcast, and back to the episode. Next up, we got to talk about the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
My favorite political body, the most legitimate one in my eyes.
And now that we're in March, we're rapidly approaching Supreme Court decision time. Mm-hmm. I think we might have to dedicate an episode sometime soon to talking about the upcoming cases.
Yeah, we do have a lot on the
you know what? I bet there's a lot going on.
Yeah, but this week we got to talk about poop water. The Supreme Court just ruled 5-4 against the EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency, in a case pertaining to the discharge of wastewater in San Francisco.
Yep,
the background,
that's poop.
That's sewage, that's poop. The background is that San Francisco has facilities that combine stormwater and sewage that often or that can sometimes overflow during heavy rains. This led to an occurrence a while ago where sewage overflowed into the Pacific Ocean, which put San Francisco in violation of the general rules provided by EPA permits for wastewater discharge. The point of this case was to decide if the EPA has the authority to apply general rules versus specific rules when it comes to permitting in relation to the enforcement of their stuff. San Francisco argued that the general rules were too vague to follow, and it was impossible to avoid a violation because of the lack of clarity on these general rules. The court decided 5-4 against what's called narrative permits, which is basically just general rules issued under the Clean Water Act.
I'll fuck with clean water.
This ruling is a gutting of the Clean Water Act, 5-4, which is...
Love that.
A lot of fun.
What a good time.
Yeah, I want to read some excerpts from this Washington Post article to give you an idea of why this ruling fucking sucks and is really stupid. As you can assume, 5-4 conservative justices.
And let them know which one flipped?
The one that flipped was Amy Coney Barrett. Welcome to the resistance.
I didn't understand your game.
Welcome to the resistance.
I did not understand your game.
She's reasonable.
That's right.
She's reasonable. So, firstly, the EPA offered more than 100 pages of rules for San Francisco to follow. Some of them were vague and said stuff like officials are held responsible for violations of, quote, any applicable water quality standard.
Yeah.
But this seems valid to me.
I was going to say, it seems like if you're a water official, running a wastewater management thing or whatever you're doing, you should be aware of the generally applicable laws and regulations that apply to you. Like, you should know what those are.
Like, the EPA should not have to spell it all out for you.
It's kind of like a significant part of your job to know what those are.
Yeah. To add to the absurdity, though, quote, San Francisco had an aging treatment plant that combines stormwater and sewage. It can overflow during heavy rains, as I said, sending household waste, including fecal water, that's poop, into outfalls in the Pacific Ocean. San Francisco said in court that it spent billions of dollars to upgrade the facility to try to meet pollution benchmarks. It is already facing at least $313 million in fines from a similar issue with a wastewater facility that empties into the San Francisco Bay. The city said in that case that it would cost a whopping $10.6 billion to bring that facility into compliance. The argument is basically it would cost a lot of money to follow regulations.
Interesting.
I don't care.
I don't want poop water.
Like, the regulations are the regulations. You got to meet them.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to run a government? Do we want to have a society or not? It also seems to me like San Francisco might have been a serial violator in this area.
That is also what it seems like. I don't want poop water.
Yeah,
poop water not only bad for people but also bad for the ocean.
It's bad for
like ocean life and the microbiomes that exist in there that help us do things. I don't like poop water.
I don't like poop water. But most importantly, in my opinion, again, this case is a contention about general rules versus specific rules for the EPA. From the Washington Post, they said, quote, officials from the EPA also said that they would like to impose more specific limits, but the EPA had been hampered by a lack of information from the city about its discharge. San Francisco denied this claim, but the central issue seems to me to be that the EPA wanted to give specific rules, did not have enough information to do so, and maybe didn't have the manpower to do so, and so the EPA rules don't apply. Or they can't be charged with a violation.
Or San Francisco just didn't give up information that they were supposed to give up, and so the EPA couldn't do their job, so they had to do general regulations rather than specific generations. They said nope.
Yeah. So basically now these general rules can't be used.
Nice.
And it can only be specific rules, but the trouble, of course, is creating specific rules requires information, which utility companies or cities might not want to give up. And creating specific rules also requires manpower, which the EPA is not going to have under the Trump administration. So this basically is it's a gutting of the EPA and it's a gutting of the Clean Water Act.
Love that. Isn't this also kind of on the backs of like Chevron being overturned?
Of course.
Like, isn't this also like kind of one of the first big decisions we're getting from the Supreme Court that just solidifies that federal organizations or federal agencies like the EPA can't go out there and interpret legislation by Congress. They can't interpret the Clean Water Act to issue general rules within permitting.
I don't know if that will. I don't think that's the argument Alito made. Alito wrote the majority decision. Okay. Absolute demon, of course. I don't think he invoked the Chevron overruling decision, but his argument was basically that the general rules were too vague. And he said, which I don't believe, but he said that this shouldn't like interrupt the ability of the EPA to do its job. I just don't believe him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like this, that just doesn't seem to be the case. I think general rules are completely fine. They're general rules, just don't violate
they're general rules. Like
I don't really know what to say about that. But like we've been joking around calling this the poop water decision. Of course, this was poop water going into the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, of course we're gonna get more poop water going forward.
But that's what I was gonna say. Is like this is a green light for utility companies to dump wastewater into freshwater sources like the Great Lakes because they don't have to follow the general rules anymore because the EPA doesn't have the time or manpower or whatever it may be or the information to draft specific rules about the discharge of wastewater.
Gas.
So that's cool.
Once again, it's going to become even more important to pay attention to your state politics, who's the governor of your state, who are your state legislatures, because as the EPA continues to be gutted, as I imagine it will be throughout the Trump administration, it's going to be down to the states to regulate their own water.
Yes.
And you better hope that you got somebody in there that cares about not having poop water.
Yeah, and let me just tell you.
Yep.
Utility companies were fucking geeked about this decision.
Yeah.
Oil and gas companies, wastewater companies, they were fucking geeked about this.
Some of the headlines that I had seen about this when the poop water decision first came out were like liberals in San Francisco united with petroleum executives. And as soon as you see that, those are two kind of evil things getting together.
Evil forces. Yeah, every article I read was like San Francisco, which is a bastion for clean energy and like environmentalism, and I was like, well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I guess maybe just not the water officials.
It just like seems liberal. What, elected Nancy Pelosi or something like that?
Yeah.
So like,
or it's just like everywhere in California is liberal. According to like, you know, when you're talking about like a lot of state politics, especially states that aren't your own, it's kind of like everybody just says that the state is who they voted for the president.
Yeah.
Like people don't really like to get into differences between counties and whatnot because like you can kind of get in the weeds of that. But
yeah, or it could just be like unseriously environmentalist.
Yeah.
Like plastic straws type shit.
Oh,
you know
absolutely,
what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, like they don't, like they care about the plastic straw type shit, but they won't do anything to regulate the utility company poisoning the drinking water. So
yeah, they're talking about how you need to monitor your own carbon footprint when you commute to work. Maybe ride a bike, sweaty, instead of, you know, maybe we should regulate dumping wastewater into our freshwater sources.
San Francisco banned plastic straws and set up some e-bikes. That's like the peak of environmentalism, right?
I think so.
That's all you got to do. Climate change
We're fighting back against climate change. I can't believe there was like a span of like 4 fucking years. I feel like even during the Trump years where I feel like the most I heard about climate change, other than Green New Deal social engineering going on in the background, was the idea that I need to watch my carbon footprint.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm kind of glad we're past that, but
yeah, totally. I'm pretty sure that the phrase carbon footprint was invented by a corporation.
I think so. I think I remember
that's the
hearing
history
about that.
of it. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but yeah, it's just a way to get you to focus on your individual contribution rather than the fact that corporations are destroying the planet.
Yeah, and even like other places just industrializing rapidly. Like,
yeah,
man.
It's not great. Moving on from the Supreme Court and poop water, though.
Moving on to things that also aren't great.
It's time to visit Texas.
Visit where?
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah, it's not great, but we got to visit Texas, folks, because we have a story out of Texas, and it's another chapter in the crusade against trans people. And I'll say this book is getting long.
It's getting real long.
It's a long book.
It's a fucking tome.
We've been covering the sort of anti-trans arc of the Republican Party for quite a long time. They've never been pro-trans, of course.
Yeah, but
the anti-trans rhetoric has like crescendo.
Like the anti-LGBTQ rhetoric has really been on the come up since 2022. I think maybe 2021 as they were gearing up for the midterm election.
Yeah,
and I feel like we've got to watch that. Unfortunately, we've got to watch that.
Yeah.
And seen how things have just gotten worse and worse.
Yeah, there was like I would say like the climax was around like the groomer stuff in 2022.
Well, gay teachers are making your kids gay.
We don't get as much of that now. But we still get plenty of anti-trans legislation, and I feel like it's a lot is focused on like sports stuff.
I was gonna say, I think it's a lot easier to go the anti-trans way when it comes to being just anti-LGBTQ than it is homophobic, because Democrats gave up on trans people.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the issues that conservatives get to just hit home runs with are the issues that Democrats don't want to counter message about.
Yep.
And like it's immigration. It's trans girls in sports, even though it's like fucking weird that we have adults in state legislatures just constantly thinking about 2 high schoolers in their state. I don't know.
It's weird, man.
It's weird, man. You're being kind of weird.
On top of this bill I'm about to talk about, Texas also just reintroduced its bathroom ban bill.
Okay.
Which
the
failed.
bounty hunter one?
No. This is a different one that failed back in 2018. Okay. But this is the same bill or a new version of the same bill that failed in 2018. And you know what group came out against it? The Texas State Police.
Dog.
Texas State Police officer said this trans bathroom ban's a bad idea.
I think they also was it in Odessa where they did the bounty hunter bathroom bill. I think the police also came out against that, saying like, how the fuck are we going to enforce this?
Yeah, exactly, because they don't even know what to do with it.
I know like police unions sometimes also like around the country come out against like expanding gun rights because they're like, this makes my job harder. This makes my job unsafer.
Yeah.
Like,
the Venn diagram has a very slim overlap.
But it's there sometimes.
Us and the police. Big fans of the police on this podcast.
Back to blue.
Anyways, we're talking about a different piece of Texas legislation, and this one's a doozy.
Okay.
So a Texas Republican just introduced a bill in the state legislature to create a new crime called gender identity fraud.
Corny.
Very corny.
Immediately corny.
Under the bill, quote, a person can be charged with a felony for identifying... for identifying the person's biological sex as the opposite of the biological sex assigned to the person at birth while dealing with either government entities or employers. The charge carries a punishment of up to 2 years in prison and a $10,000 fine for identifying as trans. Yes, felony.
What the fuck, man? Gender identity fraud is just crazy. What are you in for? Gender identity fraud. Oh my God.
To be entirely clear, if this bill passes, you could go to jail for identifying as trans in Texas.
Fuck jail. You can get thrown in prison for identifying as trans. Oh my God, what are you in for? Oh, I fucking killed somebody. What about you? Oh, I identified as the gender not assigned to me at birth. Oh, that's a hardened criminal right there.
I engaged in freedom of expression. That's why I'm in jail. Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
This is the pro-freedom party?
Yeah.
This is the pro-freedom anti-censorship party?
It's just like whoever said that the road to fascism is paved with people telling you to stop overreacting.
Yeah.
100% correct.
Oh my God,
100% correct. Because trans allies for years have been saying that this is exactly where we're headed, right? We started with things like bathroom bills, then we're talking about like trans people in the classroom, and we're talking about sports, and then we've got Trump doing executive orders saying that like there's only 2 genders assigned at birth, and now we've got a Republican in Texas starting to introduce legislation to jail you, imprison you if you identify as trans.
And like this is quite literally where it starts. Like it's actively starting right in front of us.
Yes.
Again, just like I talked about with fucking Josh Shriver and Ben Shapiro's insane statement in the cold open, they feel emboldened to do this and to escalate these attacks. Like that's not good.
Yeah, it's bad. You were never overreacting. Like this is just a bill that was introduced. Who knows if it's going to pass? It's unclear. But even if it's just the fact that it's possible, is fucking insane.
The fact that people are okay with just introducing these bills is wild, and the fact that people are going to be okay being like, yeah, that's a good idea, is crazy.
Yeah, if you're in Texas, don't be.
Yeah, don't be.
If you can leave. Holy shit.
And also,
man.
Don't snitch.
Yeah, don't snitch. Shut up.
Don't snitch.
Yep.
That's my homegirl. She's always been my homegirl.
Anyways.
Yeah, next, while we're kind of talking about the pro-freedom party, there's an interesting article by the New York Times that came out this week that sort of lists the Trump's banned words list. So we got the pro-freedom party, the anti-censorship party, kind of just doing censorship.
Cool.
And I wanted to take a moment to kind of highlight what they reported. So the New York Times put together a list of words that the Trump administration directed agencies to stop or limit the use of in order to comply with his executive orders aimed at ending wokeness.
We are doing censorship in the Trump administration.
Yes, the Trump admin is censoring federal agencies from using these specific words.
We here at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue are doing censorship.
Absolutely.
The government is doing... Anyways, you get what I'm saying. We, the Trump administration, who ran on the fact that conservatives are being persecuted and not having access to their free speech, we are doing censorship of select words.
Yes. No, it's crazy. We're going to put the full list like in the description. You can find it on Twitter if you look it up. We'll link to the New York Times article and probably link to my tweet where I tweeted out the stuff. But I wanted to read some highlights.
Okay, cool.
Because there's some bangers in here. So, starting off the banned words list, we have woman.
Of course. the pinnacle of wokeness, being a woman.
We have woman, LGBT, all-inclusive, bias, diversity, minority, race and ethnicity, sex. We know conservatives don't get that.
Of course, gotta take that out of it. Wait, I thought they wanted everything to just be condensed down into sex.
Yeah.
Like there's no distinction between sex and gender. It's all just sex assigned at birth. Like,
no, because it has to be gender. Gender's got to be the one that's assigned at birth now because you're woke if you don't. So sex is banned.
Okay.
Stereotype, systemic, socioeconomic status.
Dog, we're banning empirical terms.
Trauma.
Come on,
we're banning
man.
trauma, gender.
But we're also banning gender.
At risk, pollution.
At risk.
Pollution is crazy. Disability. Victim, discrimination, privilege, segregation, black.
Banning black?
And health equity.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah. From the New York Times, quote, the above terms appeared in government memos, in official and unofficial agency guidance, and in other documents viewed by the New York Times. Some ordered the removal of these words from public-facing websites or ordered the elimination of other materials, including school curricula, in which they might be included. In other cases, federal agency managers advised caution in terms usage without instituting an outright ban. Additionally, the presence of some terms was used to automatically flag for review some grant proposals in contracts that could conflict with Trump's executive orders.
So they're doing keyword searches.
They're doing
basically.
keyword searches for woman and denying your grants if you have anything related to woman or at risk or socioeconomic status or even black.
Yeah.
And sex.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's good. We're living in a good country. Holy moly.
When Democrats when conservatives complain about Democrat censorship, Democrats get on there and say, hey, guys, you shouldn't be racist and say slurs. I can get behind that. You shouldn't be racist and say slurs.
Yeah.
It's kind of bad things to do. When conservatives do censorship, you got to stop saying woman.
Yeah, and like Heritage Foundation here is getting everything they want. Like this is like a core component of Project 2025 is this exact shit.
Yeah.
And this is stuff that happens in the background that you largely don't know about. Like, I'm guessing most people won't read this New York Times
and
story.
most people won't be able to because it's behind a paywall.
Well, of course. Yeah, democracy dies in darkness and whatnot. That's the WAPO, but whatever. Same point. But yeah, like this is Project 2025. This is exactly what was coming and has always been coming.
And it's like there's a particularly insidious application of this that I wanted to read here, just to kind of show you, one, bad things the Trump administration is doing, and two, how this is going to manifest in like federal communications on federal websites. So the New York Times also reported that they did an analysis to show how these changes affected text on official government websites, and I just want to read you an example from the National Park Service's Stonewall National Monument webpage. There used to be an excerpt that read, before the 1960s, almost everything about living openly as a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer parentheses LGBTQ plus person was illegal. The Stonewall Uprising on June 28, 1969 is a milestone in the quest for LGBTQ plus civil rights and provided momentum for a movement. That was the original text. The text was then amended to say, quote, before the 1960s, almost everything about living openly as a lesbian, gay, or bisexual, quote, LGB person was illegal.
Way.
The Stonewall Uprising on June 28, 1969 is a milestone in the quest for LGB civil rights and provided momentum for a movement. This
crazy,
is the Trump
man.
administration actively doing trans erasure, actively erasing trans people from history, queer history here specifically, but queer history, again, is American history, just like black history is American history. History of all minorities in the country is American history that should be taught about so we don't repeat these same mistakes. And this is just a step towards trans erasure, which is a step towards trans genocide. They're trying to make it illegal to be trans, and they're trying to erase any significance of trans people from American history.
And it's especially ahistorical here because trans people were at Stonewall.
Yeah.
And that's not even like an exaggeration. Like they were literally at Stonewall, a part of the Stonewall riots and the protests that happened after.
Yeah. And it's like, even if you're not trans, even if you're somehow conservative that stumbles upon this and you're not trans, but you're maybe a gay Republican and you see this, it's not like the inclusion of LGB rather than LGBTQ plus is going to save you.
Yeah.
Because as we've covered multiple times, there's a lot of conservatives through a lot of different states that are actively petitioning to overturn Obergefell. Yeah.
Well, Ben Shapiro's doing doing debates right now at fucking college campuses.
Yeah.
Where he's saying that marriage should only be between a man and a woman because the point is for the government to encourage procreation.
Yeah.
Like they're arguing this shit right now.
Yeah.
It's stupid, man. It's bad out here.
Stupid and dumb and silly and bad.
Immoral.
Immoral, evil.
Bad things are bad.
Evil. You guys are exaggerating too much. Step towards trans genocide.
Condemn.
That's kind of what these kind of things are. You know what I mean?
Genocides don't happen in one day, people.
They don't. They kind of start somewhere, and they start with like an erasure of a specific people.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say about that one.
Bad out here, man.
You know what I'm saying? It's bad. Shout out to the New York Times for reporting on that because that kind of blew my mind when I came across that one. Figured I'd have to share it with you all.
Yeah, but retract that shout out because it's blocked behind a paywall.
Facts.
We only have access to it because we pay it.
Shout out Head in the Office because I tweeted the list.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's fucking get it.
Man.
Oh my god.
Democratizing information over here. Oh my god. Like fucking Robin Hood.
Yup. Precisely like Robin Hood. Yup.
Time to get in some extras?
Yeah, we do some extras.
So originally for the extras, I did also want to talk about the Gavin Newsom thing, but we kind of hit on that at the beginning. So remember how bad that was, and just keep that in the back of your mind forever, especially once he comes out and says, I'm running in 2028. Don't let him.
We all need to go boo.
Whack tomato. Boo.
We'll get him on the pod and boom to his face.
Hell yeah.
I won't even ask him questions, just boo.
No, I'll actually pull up a poop map of San Francisco to discredit him.
Look at all the shit in San Francisco.
I'll pull up the poop map that Ron DeSantis pulled up, cynically, because, it's part of my, ideological motive to get Gavin Newsom off the ticket.
I have an agenda to push.
Exactly. And also I'll pull up the new poop map of all the poop in the water.
Yeah.
Easy.
Look what your city
Gavin
argued
Newsom,
for.
why'd you gut the EPA?
Yeah, exactly. Your state.
The buck stops here. You're the executive of the state. Come on now, brother. But while we're speaking of states, The one extra I did want to cover today is an extra out of our home state, Michigan.
Let's go.
Alternatively, Michigan. Unfortunately, Michigan a bit right now, but we're trying to make it Michigan in the future. In Michigan's state legislature this week, conservatives voted to pass a version of the state budget that would cut the education budget by 25% and not include funding for school lunches.
Didn't we just start doing that?
Yeah.
Funding school lunches?
2 years ago, I think. In short, the Michigan GOP wants kids to be stupid and hungry, and that's their platform. 25% cuts to education is crazy.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing?
In this economy where the Department of Education at a national level might be getting gutted entirely?
Exactly.
What the fuck?
And like kids in Michigan are already behind the national average when it comes to reading. I think fourth graders specifically are behind. Fourth graders and eighth graders are behind when it comes to reading, which I think are like the milestone ages that you memorize that. And fourth graders are behind in math right now. Yeah. Now is not the time to be cutting the education budget, especially because that's going to be felt the most at the poorest schools, which are also going to feel the not free school lunches the most anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you want the most disenfranchised kids to not only not have access to free school lunch, with every kid should have access to food that it feels like a basic human rights and decency kind of thing, but also not be able to read because they're hungry. Yeah. Who wants to read when they're hungry?
Like, this is actively leaving children behind.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what George Bush's
the child
slogan.
Left Behind Act.
This is leave children behind. Like, that's the goal here.
That's crazy. And it's like, sometimes positive reform can contain budget cuts as you make things more efficient and you streamline some education policy positions, prerogatives, whatever. But just cutting the budget is not how you start reform. You don't start doing the education reform process by saying, we're taking money away, figure it out.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody.
That's how children literally get left
Especially
behind.
Like 25% of the budget. That's crazy.
Yeah, and like, to pay for what though? What are they getting with this? Just saving it?
I don't know.
Like, we're not running a crazy deficit or anything.
Yeah.
We're fine for the most part.
Like,
and I think feeding kids is morally good.
I think feeding kids is worth a deficit.
I'm happy with that. Yeah, I would take a deficit if we're feeding kids.
I would take running out of deficit for a little bit if we feed kids. Maybe raise taxes on, like, I don't know, GM specifically.
We got a state to run, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think feeding kids is probably the first thing you do.
Yeah.
You build some roads and you feed some kids. That seems decent.
Doing actual meaningful education reform. And Whitmer talked about some of that at the State of the State. She talked about changing the way we teach reading from like this new way back to an old way that I've heard is better.
Yeah.
I think like phonics based or something like that. But like education reform is happening. We're already trying to do these things, and cutting state budgets is not going to help.
Teachers are already dramatically underpaid.
Yes.
Like this is not gonna help anything.
This does have to go through the Michigan State Senate, which is Democrat controlled, before it actually becomes law. But conservatives want to do this. This is a signal of what they would do if they were in power, and you should believe them. Yeah. Because they're actively trying to get it done.
And we have a governor's race coming up in 2026.
Yeah.
And I am fearful of how Democrats will respond to this, because I don't think Democrats will vote for cutting education. I think that's a bridge too far, I would say. But they did vote to cut the minimum wage recently.
For no reason.
It still increased, but it increased less than it would have had they done nothing.
Yep.
Which sort of shocks my my hope in them.
They could have just done nothing and win. But I guess in the interest of seeming bipartisan, they made it so that Michiganders have less money in their pockets.
Yeah, they put their hand into your future pocket.
Yeah.
For no reason.
None.
Literally, yeah, that was stupid, man.
So, yeah, maybe in the interest of bipartisanship, they'll cut free school lunch. Man, I love it. I love my Democratic Party. And it's like, they got to recognize that even if they just go for a bad strategy statewide, like the MI Democrats, they're just going to lose seats.
Yeah.
Like, they're just going to lose seats and make it easier for conservatives to do evil and bad things. Like, make your kids stupid and hungry.
And that needs to be the message. Like, Republicans want your kids to be stupid. Vote for ex-Republican, whoever's in the general election for governor. The ex-Republican wants your kids to be stupid and hungry. Easy W.
Easy W right there. Oh, my God. And it's what they said.
And it's not lying.
It's not.
It's not slanderous. It's real. That's what they're doing. It's a logical endpoint. Anyways, and that brings us to the end of the episode.
I think it does.
And we appreciate you all for bearing with us.
Yes.
And for returning to the studio where we are comfortable, recording, yapping, feeling good. Feeling safe. Safe. Absolutely.
What you're saying, when I'm just here, it's my bubble.
This is the sacred hall.
This is the only institution that deserves veneration.
That's right. Here in the studio here. And we have to thank the people that keep these sacred halls afloat.
Yes, we do.
That built the foundation.
We might have to implement a dress code, honestly. Maybe we'll color coordinate next episode to
as a protest.
What's going on in the Trump administration.
I'll have a paddleboard that I flip around anytime you say something I don't like, you know what I'm saying? And that'll mean a lot.
There were some Democrats that proposed bringing like noisemakers and shit like that. That'd have fucked.
That would have done at least something to disrupt it.
That'd have been cool, at least. Then you get Mike Johnson banging the gavel like, Sergeant at Arms, I direct you to remove somebody and make him sound dumb.
Yeah, exactly. Because that does sound...
It sounds lame.
It sounds stupid.
When you say, if we do not restore decorum to this house, I will direct the Sergeant at Arms to remove the disrupting member. Make him do that. That sounds silly.
Yeah, but if they would have like brought anything to like shake and make noise... I bet Hakeem Jeffries would have like
steam coming out of his ears,
and he would have like tied them up by their feet outside. You know what I'm saying?
Tied them up by their toes.
Yeah, they would have stepped in one of those traps that like tightens around their ankles and whips them up. And now suddenly, fucking Jamie Raskin's hanging upside down outside because he dared to make a ruckus.
Yeah, he dared to get up. Or Jasmine Crockett dared to get up in the middle of the speech.
I genuinely wonder like what Hakeem Jeffries thinks he's doing.
I don't know.
Like, is it entirely just corruption? Lobbyists are telling him don't do anything? Or does he actually think that this is the way? I don't know what's worse, honestly.
It's like, I kind of regret that we didn't really pay attention to, like, the leadership race when that was going on a couple years ago. But, like, how did this guy win?
Yeah, of all people, Hakeem Jeffries. This dude has none of the sauce that Nancy Pelosi had. She was already bad for her own reasons. But this dude can't even do what she does.
I was going to say, she fundraised. Like, she could fundraise
she had
like
money
a
bags.
motherfucker.
Yeah, but he doesn't really do anything. Man, I'm so ashamed that I had to vote for Alyssa Slotkin.
And it's like he actively directs his the people under him to not do anything too. Like it's even worse than not doing anything.
He's he's requiring complacency. Fuck, man, he sucks.
Damn, eggs, $20.
A box of cereal, $8.
$8.
And Alyssa Slotkin's telling me about Reagan and the CIA?
Cold War. Alyssa Slotkin's invoking the Cold War as if, one, people don't vote on foreign policy unless we're in a war anyway, and two, nobody's thinking about the Cold War anymore.
Nobody's thinking about the Cold War. Oh my God. People don't even give a fuck about Ukraine anymore.
Yes.
You want them to think about the Cold War fucking more than 2 decades ago?
Yeah.
Be for real, man.
That was another thing, like color coordination proposal that I read in the Axios was handing out blue and yellow ties, which it's like, I fuck with the cause, but like, man,
of course I fuck with the cause.
And it's like, if you are gonna do like one color coordination protest, like, I do think it would be more beneficial for it to be protesting something that is more in the hearts and minds of Americans rather than
eggs.
Yeah,
eggs. Everyone's thinking about eggs. Everyone's talking about eggs.
Wear an eggshell color suit. Like that would have been fine, I guess. Bring
eggs and throw them. Do your own version of the joint address outside on the steps.
God, that'd be so fucking cool.
At the same time, and have a carton of eggs with you and be like, I spent my entire salary for this month getting these carton of eggs in Trump's America.
Or hear me out. You have rallies across the country where you hand out people free cartons of eggs. You fundraise a little bit.
Do mutual aid. Do a food bank because no one can afford to anymore.
Exactly.
Come on, man. It's really that simple. Like, it's not a complicated game. Get your hits in. If Democrats would have like done their own joint session outside, that would have been so cool. Or even if just a contingent, like all you need is a group of 20 people to make it look good on camera.
Yeah.
Even if just a contingent of
that's
them.
what Trump did at all his fucking rallies.
It could have been like the squad, if that's even like a group in Congress anymore.
I don't know.
They could have gone outside. It could have been AOC and all of the cool people in Congress, all the progressives could have gone outside, done their own joint address, each done speeches talking about how you can't afford eggs, how Trump hates immigrants and trans people and want you to be afraid.
She could have pointed behind her and said, "Get a load of this fucking idiot in there. We're going to talk about the real issues out here," and then actually say something meaningful and cool.
Exactly. They could have done it.
But being meaningful and cool, I don't think that's in the Democrats' wheelhouse right now.
They can be corny.
Yep.
They can be
cringe.
Complacent. They can be cringe.
That's the DCCC right there.
And I think we can leave it at that.
You know who's not
corny, cringe, and complacent?
Corny, cringe, and complacent? These wonderful, beautiful people that support us every month on Patreon. So I got to give a special shout out to Caden Kraut, Lord Tau the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Dylan B, Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinski, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb J. Rich Taro Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W, Fergalaki, Max Vesquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Blueberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Beg Burrito, Cincy Elks, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cutsford Yook, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird, Titty, Crawfish, and Benny Bennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Shapiro's boyfriend, Ted Cruz's boy Toy, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarleson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Sines, Internet and His Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Tailored for Content, Corey Chambers, Ellie N, Devin Hatchard, Retromondo, Emma the Dude Slayer, Veronica, aka V, Raxon, Ash Smith, The Grotler, Flower Clowns, Beetlebugs, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, and Hope of Giants, AK Gon, Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cammy, Tylen Freeman, Tay, Isaac Hodges,
Madeline C, Kayla Lowe, Anna Valinet, Casey C, Say Yes to West, August, Particular Pikmin, Sir Capilot, Jeff Sines, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Sasha, MJ is Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ander, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T, Kishan Lala, Amanda R, Hanky Panky, Tyler J, Damian Blues, Ashley White, Particulon, Memfrez, Lauren, Uncrestmatic Boar, Sasquatch, Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Kevin Kisaya, Schnoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, Krusty Krab, Dew Fairy, Chelceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, Azim Feta Hussein, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Brooklyn G, Noverk the Dastardly, Goldthorn, Addie Book, Merlin, John from Houston, Anaya, Cryobongi, The Art Dork, Sergeant Pookie, Connor Nix, Jordan T, Hoodie, Kim Kitsuragi, Rose Grimm, Kristen, Jamie the Young Extremist, Jack the Heathen, Archer W, Evan Mingo, AJ Torres, Elo Nico, Jake Hall, Seth Schmidt, Daniel Stock, Noah Sajas, Maja What, Ultra the Dragon, Mercy Boku, Dick Cheney, and 6-Inch Heels, Lake Wechter, hopefully I said that right.
Nice.
And my mom, thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon. Beautiful. Just a little peer behind the curtain here. Sometimes we will spell out your last names phonetically.
We have to. Come on now.
So I hope I get them right.
I get it. I got a funky last name too.
He does have a funky last name.
Uh-huh.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Actually, I have a normal last name.
I hope you don't get locked up for gender identity fraud. Yeah, I'm serving 15 years for gender identity fraud.
I got 2 to life for gender identity fraud.
Unserious country. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Have a good week.